Hello, this is Talking Europe. I'm Catherine Nicholson at the European Parliament in Brussels. Now, most of us will have memories of our parents telling us to learn the value of money and not spending all of our cash as soon as it hits our pockets. And of course, always having something in the piggy bank for a rainy day. An argument of a similar vein, but on a much, much bigger scale, is currently playing out in Europe. Italy is the third biggest economy in the eurozone and seemingly determined to push on with a big borrowing, big spending national budget that won over voters in the election in March. But these are plans that the European Finance Commissioner says are not in anyone's interest, including Italy's. Well, before we begin our debate on that topic, let's get a little bit more detail on this story. This report by Anaïs Guérard.
He won't budge, despite a shoving from the Eurogroup. On Monday, Italy topped the agenda for meetings between Eurozone finance ministers. Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte's 2019 budget is troubling for the 18 other member states that use the euro. He insists it's what his country needs to reboot its economy.
We're seeing stagnation that's affecting the whole of the European economy as predicted. But that's exactly why we're implementing this expansive budget. Italy cannot go into recession. We need to reverse this trend.
With growth dragging its feet, Italy's new budget could be fragile. It's grounded in the optimistic prediction that the Italian economy will grow 1.5% in 2019, while the International Monetary Fund is banking on a rise of only around 1%.
This budget is not good for the Italian people because it puts them in debt. What would be the sense in having the euro as a shared currency if some people follow the rules and others don't?
Italy wants to set a maximum deficit of 2.4% of gross domestic product. That's still below the 3% limit set out by the EU's founding treaty, but 3 times higher than agreed upon by the previous government. It's a bid to restart the economy by injecting money that Italy simply doesn't have. Even the governor of Italy's central bank isn't keen. He's warned that it could cost the country dearly and dig deeper into public debt, which is already at 130% of GDP. Over time, Italian businesses could see borrowing costs increase. The European Commission has given Italy until Tuesday to submit a new budget proposal.
That's the crux of the story there. Let's introduce today's debate guests. I have with me 2 MEPs from Italy. First off, from La Lega Party, which is in government, Marco Zanni. Thank you for being with us. Hello. Also from Italy, Brando Benifei. You're with the Partito Democratico, which used to be in government. Joining us from Germany, Bernd Kölmel, who is from the Liberal Conservative Reformists. Hello. And our final guest, Stelios Kouloglou from Greece, the Radical Left Party. Hi there.
Hello.
So we have a broad spectrum of European political opinion with us here. I'd like to start off with you, though, Mr. Zanni. This budget, big borrowing, big spending, what do you think it's going to achieve for your country?
I wouldn't call it big borrowing or big spending. 2.4 deficit-bill ratio is perfectly sustainable and under the 3% threshold.
22 billion euros of borrowing, to be precise.
That is perfectly sustainable by an economy that is worth about 1.5 trillion euro and is perfectly sustainable for a country that has 50 billion external surpluses.
It is, of course, a big country, a big economy in the world, in the eurozone. Mr. Benifei, your party used to be in government.
Yeah, but let's start with the facts. From 2011, when the Lega was in government and we had almost a bankruptcy and we had a spread of 500 and more, and we had to have a technical government that had to also with errors try to repair a situation where we were almost destroyed as a country. And we had an increase of debt, and then we had a very difficult path towards some growth that we had in the last quarters. Then now with the new government, the new data shows us that the growth is stopped. We are already 0 growth of GDP. And myself, I've been fighting, and my party also, for more flexibility, more possibility of spending and investing in Europe. We have been fighting for that as Socialists and Democrats, as the Democratic Party. But the point is, what do you do with the deficit? Because to sustain that, you need growth. And then look at what has been done now in Spain. With that similar spending, with some deficit, we have increase of minimum salary, we have an increase in investment on research and in school. what do we do with this 2.4 in Italy, with this proposal? And we see the markets reacting very badly, differently than from Spain. Why? Because there is all electoral measures. There is no investment in growth. There are no investments in a real economy. There is only some condonation of past unpaid taxes. There is some glimpse of some income support, very little, also undermining what we did in the past on that. So it's a very electorally driven proposal that is very bad for Italy economy, and we are already seeing it. And I think it will be bad especially for the poorer and the weaker people in our society.
Mr. Colmel, you look like you're agreeing with what Mr. Bénézet is saying?
No, sorry for this. I think it's clear. Yeah, exactly, democracy. And I'm a fighter for democracy, transparency and self-determination. That's very important. Means, from my point of view, it's absolutely okay if Italy and the government of Italy decides to go on with more debt. That's okay. But the problem is, as a member of the currency euro, then you will have problems, because we have a contract of Maastricht, and as my colleague Marco Zanni said, 3% is a level for the annual debt. But we should add that another level is 60% of the GDP, and Italy is on the range of 131% of the GDP, and this is
So it's unfair on the rest of the eurozone?
That's a right-wing approach. That's the right-wing approach that I can understand.
That's a sense of.
No, that's the right-wing approach. It's good to also contest the rules of Europe, but to get more growth and development, not for just having elections.
Well, just briefly, and I'd like to bring in Mr. Kouloglou.
But to add this, it's very important to understand. I support the Italian idea to go its own way, but then Italy should be brave and say we go out of the currency euro, because the currency euro is not fitting for Italy, and that will give you all possibilities.
This is the right-wing plan for Italy. It's the default for Italy. Yeah.
Well, I don't think anyone's talking about an Ital-exit at the moment, are they? Is anyone? I'll come to you in just a second. But is anyone talking about an Ital-exit? Do you want your country to leave the euro?
Not at all. This is not the plan of this government. And who is talking about Italy exiting the euro because of this 2.5%? Those people don't know how macroeconomics works. Saying that in 2011 Italy was close to default is false. All the macroeconomic indicators are showing a different history. Saying that 2.4% deficit will bring Italy outside the euro is false. There is no macroeconomic base on this. And saying that using money for the poor, when the Partito Democratico was ruling the government, we had almost 1.8 million poor in Italy. Last year, at the end of the Partito Democratico ruling, we had 5 million, so more than doubling. So that's why we have to spend money.
Okay, obviously you're defending your government's plans. Mr. Kouloglou hasn't spoken yet.
To enter into the Italian politics, this is not the point. The point is, in your abstaining from your reportage you before, the fact that European citizens, not only in Italy, they don't have savings. You know why? Because the austerity policy is imposed on European citizens the last decades are deprived of any kind of money. And this is, first of all, we have to say...
So the austerity is at the root of this?
Sorry?
Austerity is the root problem of this?
Of course. And I understand the Italian parties, all of them, they want to challenge this austerity policy that made very bad to Italy's economy, but also to Greece and the other countries of the... But after all, we have all to, they say the other argument is that we have all to respect the rules. Of course we have to respect the rules, but all the rules, not some of them, For instance, let's take the banking union. There is a banking union agreement which is not implemented. You know why? Because Germany is not abiding by the agreement. There is a rule of the European Union saying that no country has to have more than 6% commercial surplus.
The rules of the eurozone.
Got Mr. Benifei agreeing.
The rules of the eurozone.
Well, one at a time.
There is a country that has more than 6%. And they're not, it's not abiding by the rule because it's more. We cannot, European Union cannot survive with double standards.
Well,
we have to respect.
I agree. I think he's totally right. If we don't change the rules, and that's what we try to do, Europe will not be saved, and we will see growing.
So there's too much rigidity.
Forces, racist, using migrants as scapegoats. They will grow and they will govern.
That's why Italians
they will grow because of errors.
Let's hear from Mr. Colmel, whose country Germany has been accused. I'd like to just briefly hear from Mr. Colmel, whose country has been accused, and then you can ask a question.
Absolutely. You told the truth, but only the half of the truth. The truth is exactly as I said, we have levels for debt. And this must be managed, and it is not managed. And again, I don't want to blame Italy, or neither than Greece or others. They couldn't fulfill the levels, they couldn't fulfill these rules, but then we have to act in a serious and in a suitable way, which go on for the next decades. And this means we have to new construct the eurozone. Otherwise, Italy has a problem of the exchange rate. It is too high for Italy. I want to support Italy. Italy needs another currency which is weaker than the euro.
Well, it seems like nobody in Italy, at least among our representatives here, is advocating an Italexit from the euro at this point.
At least explicitly, we have the doubt that they are going that way.
This government has no plan to exit the euro. Stop it.
One last word from you, Mr.
For years, you can find the advertisement of their campaign.
Without Italy.
One last word from you, and we'll move on to something else.
Also, you have to respect the rules, you know. So the question is this: Are you complying? Are you want to respect also?
The question is who complied with the rules in the past? No Germany, no France, no Spain. Spain had the average deficit bill.
So you see double standards.
The problem is that
what is flexibility?
Let's wait for Mr. Kouloglou to finish his point.
Are you accepting?
11%
Are you accepting the?
So what is 2.4?
Are you accepting the decision?
Let's let Mr. Kouloglou finish his point.
Are you accepting the decision of the relocation of the refugees in all European countries, including your allies now, Hungary, Poland? Are you also? This is here. No, you're not. You also want to apply double standards.
We are getting away from the.
We advocate for the protection of external borders.
Well, that is certainly a debate for another day. I do have to interject at this point. We are running out of time, unfortunately. I'm just going to bring us our regular check on fake news. This week we found fake news relating to Italy's budget. This is a mistranslation of Heron Dijsselbloem. The Five Star Movement's official Facebook and Twitter accounts recently posted this problematic video. It's a video of the former Eurogroup head Heron Dijsselbloem giving an interview to American TV network CNBC. This version, however, has an Italian language voiceover which seriously distorts Dijsselbloem's words. To give one example, it has Dijsselbloem saying he is, quote, openly inviting the markets to attack Italian finances. In the original, he made no such statement. Well, this is just one of several distortions in the clip. It's been shared more than 250,000 times on social media, but also debunked by, among others, France 24's own team, as well as in articles on news site ilpost.it and Italian fact-checker butac.it. Well, the original video is still available on CNBC's website for anyone who wants to check it for themselves. The Five Star Movement has said that an online news site called Pandora is responsible for the video, but Five Star has not taken it down. Well, we don't have a representative from the Five Star Movement here with us, but Mr. Zanni, your party in coalition with the Five Star Movement, do you defend this fake news?
It's a mistake made by the Five Stars communication, and I mean they will excuse or whatever. I mean the translation.
Should it be taken down?
The translation was wrong, and that's clear. That's a fact. Commenting on the former Eurogroup chief Dijsselbloem, the message that he sent, apart from this interview and this wrong translation and whatever, but the hawkish Dijsselbloem has a strong responsibility on what happened in Europe in the last 6-7 years, and clearly, especially in the hearings in front of the Econ Committee in the European Parliament, he showed adversity for democracy, especially on Greece. I remember in an official hearing in front of the Econ Committee, Dijsselbloem replying to a Greek MEP saying that doesn't matter what happened in Greece, Greece had to do what the Eurogroup is
not
saying.
A fan of Jeroen Dijsselbloem. A brief comment from Mr. Bénézet.
I think, unfortunately, I have another interpretation. I think that fake news is the base of governing by Five Star and Lega together. Yes, I mean...
A very strong accusation.
And so colleague Zanni knows very well because he was in Five Star before, now in Lega. And this fake news way is the same that I heard today. They talk about defending the poor, and then the main point of their budget is to condone tax evasion of people moving capitals away.
So we call it fake news.
We are unfortunately very much out of time. Thank you all so much for taking part in this very lively debate. Marco Zanni, Brando Bénézet, Bent Kolmel and Stelios Kologlou, thank you all for your time. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you in part 2 of Talking Europe.
These might not be presidential elections, but the midterms here in the United States will change the course of President Donald Trump's next 2 years in office. For this week's edition of Inside the Americas, we take a closer look at those results, what they change, plus we'll take you on a tour of the corridors of power right here in Washington, D.C.
Inside the Americas on France 24 and France24.com.